The sky over Seattle had cracked open like an overripe plum, spilling sheets of rain down the quiet highway. Most drivers were smart enough to pull off before the worst hit, but one matte black Range Rover sat stalled on the shoulder, hazards blinking like a heartbeat in distress. Inside Rosie's diner, Naomi Rivers wiped down the counter with practiced rhythm. The morning rush had just trickled out, and the clinking of coffee mugs and the low hum of the jukebox filled the space like a warm blanket. Naomi liked this time best, the stillness, the illusion of peace. She moved behind the counter with her usual quiet grace, 26 years old, bright-eyed but tired, dressed in jeans and a faded red apron. Her wrist peeked out from beneath the rolled sleeve of her flannel shirt, and with it, the old silver bracelet she never took off. A crescent moon charm hung from it, delicate, engraved with the initials E.B. Naomi had no memory of her grandmother Clara Ara, only stories told in hushed voices by her mother, Ellen, before cancer took her too soon. The bracelet was the only piece of Clara Ara Naomi had left, along with questions that had never been answered, like who her father was or why her mother never spoke of him. A clap of thunder made her glance outside, and that's when she saw it. A man stood beside the Range Rover, tall, broad-shouldered, and completely out of place in the pouring rain. His charcoal trench coat was soaked, but he didn't seem to care. He had one hand braced on the hood, the other gripping a phone that clearly wasn't getting a signal. Naomi blinked. Wealth radiated off him even in the rain. She grabbed a spare umbrella and walked out without hesitation. "Need a hand," she called over the downpour. He turned, eyes sharp and blue beneath a furrowed brow. For a moment, he seemed to assess her the way one might assess a chessboard, like he was used to calculating people. "The engine's dead. I've already called a tow truck, but it's going to be hours." Naomi smiled politely. "Well, it just so happens I've fixed more engines than most guys at the garage down the road." "Pop the hood." He hesitated. Then, wordlessly, he did. 10 minutes later, she had diagnosed the issue, a flooded ignition coil, and managed to get the SUV to sputter reluctantly back to life. Rain slicked her hair down her face, but she smiled as she shut the hood. "You'll want to replace that coil soon," she said, brushing her hands on her jeans. "It'll die again if you don't." The man looked at her like she was a puzzle he hadn't solved. "What's your name?" "Naomi." "Naomi Rivers." He opened his mouth to reply, but his gaze had already drifted, down to the bracelet glinting on her wrist. His face changed, subtly, sharply. He froze. "That bracelet," he said, voice suddenly tight. "Where did you get that?" Naomi's smile faded. "Why?" He stepped closer, rain forgotten. "Because my mother had one, exactly like it, and she's been dead for 20 years. The diner's bell jingled softly as Naomi stepped back inside, the billionaire trailing behind her like a ghost clinging to a memory. His expensive shoes left wet tracks on the checkered floor, but he didn't notice. He hadn't taken his eyes off her bracelet since she'd lifted the SUV's hood. Naomi moved behind the counter, grabbing 2 mugs. "Coffee?" He nodded absently and sat in the corner booth, the one near the window where regulars liked to watch the rain roll off the highway. But this man wasn't here for coffee. He was staring at her like the world had tilted sideways. Naomi poured the cups and slid into the seat across from him, her curiosity piqued but cautious. "You said your mother had a bracelet like mine." He looked down at the coffee. "Not like yours." "Identical." His voice had a tight edge like someone struggling to hold the past at bay. "I'm Lucas Blackwell," he said finally, "CEO of Argon Tech. You've probably never heard of it." Naomi's brows rose. She had, everyone had. It was the tech empire that ran half of Silicon Valley's infrastructure. Lucas Blackwell wasn't just rich, he was royalty in the digital world. But none of that mattered right now. "What happened to your mother?" Naomi asked gently. Lucas took something out of his wallet and set it on the table, a faded photo. Naomi leaned in. The woman was young, early 30s maybe, smiling beside 2 men. One of them wore thick glasses and had a boyish grin. The other stood taller, more serious. But Naomi's eyes locked on the woman. She wore the bracelet. Her bracelet. Crescent moon, same chain, same delicate curve. That's her, Lucas said quietly. Ella Lanina Blackwell. She vanished 20 years ago. Everyone assumed she was dead, but no body was ever found. Naomi couldn't look away. Where was this taken? Some lab in Northern California, Lucas said. They were building something, a program, cutting edge, years ahead of its time. My mother was the brain behind it, but there was betrayal. Someone tried to steal it. After that, she disappeared. Naomi swallowed hard. Who are the men? The one in glasses is Victor Harov. He owns Helix Core now, billionaire, ruthless. The other one. He trailed off. Naomi waited, pulse ticking in her throat. Lucas met her eyes. We never identified him. But Naomi had. Her hands trembled slightly. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out an old, creased photo of her own. A man holding a baby girl, smiling with the same quiet seriousness. That's my father, she whispered. Daniel Rivers. He left when I was 6. My mom said it wasn't safe. Lucas stared at the photo, and then the storm outside didn't seem like the loudest thing in the world anymore, because what they were holding in their hands weren't just pictures, they were pieces of a puzzle someone had buried long ago, pieces that were never supposed to be found. The rain had eased into a soft drizzle, but inside Rosie's diner, the air was thick with revelation. Naomi clutched the photo of her father like it might slip through her fingers and vanish like the man himself had so many years ago. Across from her, Lucas stared at it in disbelief, the resemblance unmistakable now that he was really looking. The jawline, the eyes, the same quiet intelligence that had once lived in his mother's gaze. Daniel Rivers, Lucas repeated, barely above a whisper. He's the missing piece. Naomi nodded slowly. He disappeared when I was 6. My mom said it was because he'd made something too powerful, something dangerous. But I never knew what. Lucas leaned back in the booth, his fingers steepled under his chin. The project they worked on, it was called AURA, an adaptive learning algorithm, artificial intelligence before the world even had a name for it. Naomi blinked. You're saying they invented AI 20 years ago? Lucas nodded. Not just any AI, they built something ethical, something safe. Clara Ara Rivers, your grandmother, was the moral compass. My mother was the architect, and your father, he was the code. But what happened? Naomi asked. Why did they all disappear? Lucas's expression hardened. Victor Harov. He said the name like it tasted bitter. He was part of the team, at first, but he wanted to weaponize the code, use it to build surveillance systems, military tech, predictive manipulation for profit. When they pushed back, he made threats. Clara Ara went into hiding. My mother vanished. And your dad? Ran, Naomi whispered. To protect you, Lucas said. I'd bet my entire company on it. She looked down at the bracelet. Suddenly it felt heavier. Lucas motioned toward it. My mother's bracelet had something embedded in the crescent. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a data vault. My theory. Your bracelet holds the original source code. Naomi pulled it off carefully, her fingers trembling. You think there's a microchip in this? Lucas nodded. Encrypted, hidden. If we can extract it, we might be able to trace everything, prove Victor's crimes, maybe even find your father. Naomi hesitated. Why now? Lucas's jaw tightened. Because Victor is launching a product next week, something he claims is his own innovation. But I've seen the designs. It's AURA, our parents' legacy, and if he gets away with it, it's over. No one will ever know the truth. Naomi looked down at the bracelet, then back up at him. So what do we do? Lucas's reply came without pause. We burn his empire to the ground. Lucas's private lab didn't look like a lab at all. From the outside, it resembled a high-end mountain lodge nestled just outside Bellevue. Floor-to-ceiling windows, cedar walls, and a fireplace flickering like it belonged in a ski magazine. But underground, it was all steel, biometric scanners, and servers humming in a symphony of secrets. Naomi stood at the center of it, overwhelmed but resolute. She held the bracelet tightly in her palm as Lucas powered up the workbench. His fingers flew across the screen, opening decryption panels and scanning protocols. "I've only seen one of these once," he murmured, motioning to the crescent charm. "We have to be delicate. It's not just data, it's legacy." Naomi unclasped it and laid it on the metal tray. Lucas hovered a precision scanner over it. A few seconds passed. Beep, he froze. "There's something inside," he said. "Encrypted drive, not even accessible with my clearance." "Can you open it?" Naomi asked. Lucas smiled faintly. "Not me." He stepped aside, bringing up an interface on the screen, a relic from the past. A 2003 operating system interface with Clara Ara's initials coded into the boot-up sequence. The original gateway. The key wasn't technical, it was personal. Clara Ara knew someone would try to steal it, Lucas explained. She protected it with a password, a phrase only family would know. Naomi frowned. "Like a riddle?" Lucas nodded. A soft prompt blinked on the screen. "I am the first and the last. I bloom under darkness and vanish by dawn." "What am I?" Naomi's breath caught. She looked down at the charm again, the crescent, the stories her mother used to tell. "It's the moon," she whispered. A crescent moon. Grandma Clara Ara said it was her favorite, because even when it wasn't whole, it was still shining. She typed it in, MOON. The screen flashed green. The drive unlocked. Data flooded the interface, blueprints, video logs, journals. There was a short file labeled Last Message, CL. Naomi clicked. Clara Ara's voice came through, aged but warm. "If you're hearing this, it means the bracelet found its way to where it was always meant to go. The code you now hold isn't just ours. It's a promise. Victor Harov tried to bury us, but he didn't know the strength of legacy. Protect this. Use it to tell the truth. And Naomi, if you're hearing this, I love you." Naomi's throat closed. She hadn't heard her grandmother's voice in years, only in memory. But here it was, guiding her. Lucas didn't speak. He simply reached over and clicked a file labeled Project AURA, Final Proof. Encrypted logs showed Victor's name. Timestamps, theft, threats, Clara Ara's warning reports ignored. And finally, the kill switch, the code designed to dismantle Aura if it fell into the wrong hands. Naomi turned to Lucas. "It's all here," she said. "We can prove everything." Lucas nodded grimly. "But now we have a different problem." He looked at the surveillance feed from outside. 2 black SUVs had pulled into the driveway. "Harov knows we're onto him." Lucas moved quickly, hands flying across the keyboard to shut down the terminal and encrypt the bracelet's files again. Naomi stood frozen, staring at the live feed on the screen. 2 black SUVs, tinted windows. No plates. "Is that him?" she asked, voice low. "Not Harov himself," Lucas said, yanking open a drawer and pulling out a flash drive. "He doesn't get his hands dirty, but those are his people." He plugged the drive into the terminal. "This holds the entire AURA archive. We'll need to get it to someone trustworthy." Naomi's fingers clenched around the bracelet instinctively. "What about the kill switch?" Lucas looked up. "That's not on the flash drive. I'm not letting anyone carry that but me." Footsteps crunched outside. The feed flickered as one of the SUVs powered down. Lucas handed her the drive. "There's a contact of mine at the Seattle Tribune, investigative team. Her name's Regina Holloway. Get this to her. She'll know what to do." "What about you?" Naomi asked, a flicker of fear rising. "I'll stall them. They'll expect resistance. Let them think they've won." Naomi's lips parted. "That's insane." He gave her a hard look, but there was something softer underneath. "This isn't just about business anymore, Naomi. This is about your family. Mine. Our mothers died for this. If we let him win—" A knock, slow, measured. Then a voice through the speaker. "Mr. Blackwell, open the door. We're here on behalf of Mr. Harov." Lucas grabbed her hand and guided her toward a narrow corridor near the server wall. He pressed his thumb to a hidden panel. A steel door slid open, revealing a staircase that spiraled downward into a maintenance tunnel. "This will lead you 2 blocks north. My driver's on standby. He knows to meet you at the cafe with the red awning." Naomi's heart hammered in her chest. "Lucas!" But before she could finish, he took her hand briefly, just for a second. Not as a billionaire, not as a CEO, as someone who just realized what family might mean. "Run," he whispered. She nodded and disappeared down the stairs. Lucas turned as the steel door sealed shut. The bracelet code was backed up. The truth was out of reach. But the knock came again. This time harder. When Lucas opened the front door, he was calm. 3 men in black stood there, middle-aged, military cut, not police, not FBI, not anyone who could be traced. One of them stepped forward. "You've been asked to hand over all digital material tied to Project AURA. Lucas crossed his arms. "Then you're wasting your time." The man frowned. "Is that a refusal?" Lucas smiled. "It's a delay." And that was when the lights cut out. The rain had returned by the time Naomi reached the cafe with the red awning. Her shoes were soaked, her jacket clung to her skin, but she didn't stop, not even to catch her breath. Regina Holloway was already there, sitting at a corner table with a black umbrella folded beside her and a leather satchel at her feet. She looked up as Naomi approached, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who missed nothing. "You must be Naomi," she said, rising to greet her. "Lucas said you might come." Naomi placed the flash drive on the table like it was made of glass. "This has everything. Audio logs, code, journal entries, proof that Victor Harov stole Aura, and proof he had a hand in what happened to Elelenina Blackwell." Regina's expression didn't change, but her hands moved with reverence as she picked it up. "You have no idea what you're about to set in motion," she said. Naomi smiled faintly. "Neither did my grandmother or my dad, but someone has to finish what they started." Regina nodded. "We'll move fast. My team's on standby. And when this story breaks—" She didn't have to finish. Naomi already knew. 3 days later. The headline rippled across the internet like a tidal wave. "Billionaire tech mogul, accused of sabotage, theft, and conspiracy cover-up." Victor Harov's name was everywhere, linked to a 20-year-old betrayal, hidden research, and a silenced woman whose death had long been ruled accidental. Aura had been stolen. But the truth had finally been set free. Lucas appeared publicly the same day, clean-cut, tired but composed, flanked by lawyers and a brief statement. "I will no longer stand by as others profit from stolen futures. This is for my mother." Victor tried to deny it. But there were videos, witnesses, data files, even a short voice log recovered from Clara Ara herself. In it, she named Victor, warned of his ambitions. The court of public opinion didn't wait, and the legal system followed close behind. 1 month later, the sun broke through Seattle's gray skies as Lucas stepped through the front door of Rosie's Diner. He was no longer dressed like a billionaire, just jeans, a navy jacket, and a quiet look of peace. Naomi was refilling a coffee pot when she saw him. They locked eyes, and this time there was no wait between them. He approached the counter and pulled something from his coat pocket. A new bracelet, silver, the same crescent moon. But this one had a second charm, a small gear, mechanical, symbolic. "Your grandmother built the code," Lucas said, placing it in her palm. "And you helped finish the story." Naomi blinked back the burn behind her eyes. "So what now?" Lucas smiled. "We start a foundation, in their names, for young women in tech, and for kids like us, who grew up without answers." Her lips parted in surprise. "You want me to? I want you to lead it," he said. "Together." She didn't answer with words. She just reached across the counter. And this time, it was her who took his hand. 1 year later, Rosie's Diner was still open. But now, next door, stood a small glass building with a sign etched in chrome. The Crescent Project, Innovation Through Legacy. Naomi Rivers wore the bracelet every day, not because it held a secret, but because it reminded her of the day she stopped waiting for the past to explain itself and decided to shape the future instead.